Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Guys and a Chainsaw. I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
Well, after coming out of a rather fun month, I think, we had, I just want to take a moment to just say, I think we had some great holiday movies this year.
Me too.
It was a blast.
They were fun.
Yeah. And we finally got to do Scrooged, which is like, I mean, I feel like we could end this podcast now and you'd be a happy man.
I would. But I don't want to.
No, we're starting a new year, a new fresh year, and the end is not in sight as far as we're concerned. Here we are at New Year's time looking for a film that has a New Year's theme. And I think eventually we'll run out of these much, much quicker than the other holidays we try to theme. This movie that we're doing this week has actually been on my list for a while now. It comes up every time we're looking for a New Year's movie, and we always seem to pass over it. This time, Craig gave me the option of choosing the film, since he has chosen the last two or three, and I, for better for worse, picked 1982's Ghostkeeper, a Canadian film, and it was actually shot as a tax shelter, which a lot of movies were apparently back in those days. There were a lot of rich people in the oil industry up there, and they were looking for ways to basically, save on taxes and creatively spend their money. And it was very common at that time for them to use movies as a tax shelter. If the movie didn't make money, they could just write it off. This was a pretty big boom for the Canadian film department, and a lot of these horror movies around this time actually were filmed in Canada. But most of them are made to look like, summer camps and American settings. Toronto's supposed to double for New York, that kind of thing. This is one of the first movies we've reviewed, I think, that's a Canadian film that actually unabashedly seems to take place in Canada. It's basically almost like The Shining, but up in the mountains of Canada in a much smaller lodge and a much crappier film.
Yep.
Yeah. You texted me. You said, I don't even know why I let you pick movies anymore. So I know what kind of conversation we're going to get into here about this before we even begin. But anyway, this movie, like I said, has been on my radar for a while, just because I've run across it in lists of films that take place in New Year's time, mostly because I think there's so few of them that it ends up on all these lists. And the reviews are pretty mixed about it. It's one of those things that has been fairly obscure for a while because it had a very, very short run in theaters. It was not successful, but has, over the years, apparently gained a bit of a cult following. So that's what they claim anyway. And there is a Blu-ray release that has been out, and I think that's the transfer that we watched. So anyway, it was my first time seeing it, of course. Craig, how about you? Had you even heard of this one before? Except for me talking about it every year.
I don't even remember that, no.
Yeah, you completely dismissed it every single time. I don't expect you to remember, you asshole.
Yeah, no, I don't remember. I'd never heard of it. I don't know what to say. It's a movie that you recommended. All right. Okay. So here's how Todd sold this movie to me. Okay, I'm gonna do it like text. Todd.
Oh my God.
Here's the movie I want to do. Me. Okay, that's cool. I've picked the last couple, whatever. Todd. Cool. Todd. To be fair, there is a New Year's movie about a bunch of hot gay guys, but let's do this instead. Me. Okay. Then me watching this movie. We could have watched a movie about a bunch of hot gay guys, and we watched this instead. Like, seriously?
I'm sure there are no shortage of films of hot gay guys that you have. I just have this feeling.
Well,
Yeah. We don't have to get too deep into true confession time.
yeah, no, yeah, it takes place in Canada. Have you ever been to Canada, Todd?
Heck yeah. Let me tell you about my trips to Canada. Back in 1983, we went to Toronto. It was fun. I was a kid. We didn't go to the mountains. It wasn't snowing at the time. Back when we lived in Michigan, we went to Canada a while back. What was that? Oh, saw Sharon, Lois, and Bram in concert by accident in an amusement park. Do you remember that? The Elephant Show? That was a great Canadian production. Do you remember that?
Gosh, no, I don't remember. I mean, the name sounds really familiar.
Maybe that was just a Michigan thing or kind of a regional deal because we got a lot of Canadian TV, but it was a...
I don't know. The name sounds familiar. Yeah, I when I was a little tiny kid, my parents took me to Niagara Falls.
Oh, yeah, I've been there too.
And that's the only time I've ever been in Canada because I think that sits right there on the border. My mom tells the story that, like, I was teeny. She was pregnant with my sister, so I was like 2-3 years old. And she tells the story that by the end of the trip, my wrist was bruised because she was holding onto it so tight because I have no idea what Niagara Falls is like. Now, I can't believe we're talking about this. It says something about the movie. But she said that at the time at Niagara Falls, like, there were just like little tiny rails that separated you from the falls, and she was just mortified that I was gonna go over. So my wrist was bruised from her holding it. And the only reason that I ask is because I can't imagine what we're going to have to say about this movie. Dude, it was so bad. Okay.
You know what, though?
No, wait.
Bad isn't the word. All right, go on. You got another
bad.
Niagara Falls story? Go on. Let's hear it.
No, like, one of my favorite things about doing this is, reading, like, behind-the-scenes stuff. And there's nothing about this. In the IMDb trivia, there are only, like, 2 items. And one of them is that halfway through the movie, they ran out of money, so they were just like, it, and they just threw out the script and just like winged it, and you can totally tell, like, I feel okay. So the very first thing you see in the movie is this text on the screen that says, "In the Indian legends of North America, there exists a creature called Wendigo, a ghost who lives on human flesh."
Very promising. Very promising beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you think that's what the movie's going to be about, and it's not at all. Like, there's this gross, creepy guy locked up in a room somewhere that I guess is supposed to be the Wendigo, but he's just locked up in that room the whole time. Like, nothing ever happens.
Yeah, I know, right? It's true. Maybe, I managed to do a little bit more digging, and I found an interview with the director, the writer-director of this, actually. His name is...
Jim Makachuk.
Yeah. He started out in L.A., I think, then moved to Canada to take advantage of all these productions that were going on for these tax shelters, and had written a bunch of stuff and ended up, getting, he said, like about $100,000 from 6 different people to go out and shoot this movie. And then the producer somehow at one point came up and said, I don't know if people backed out or what happened, but they suddenly just didn't have any money anymore, and they could just scrap the whole thing. And probably still write it off. I mean, it probably would have been just fine with all these people. But he said, no, we made the decision to go just to plow through it. So he literally threw out the script, and he said, we just kept shooting, and I was just making up scenes as we went along. I guess just to run out the film and get these actors paid and, finish out their contracts and whatnot. And you're right, it does show. However, I would argue that if you didn't know that, and I didn't know it going in, I only knew that after the fact, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes a hell of a lot of sense, then I feel you could have cut out some of those scenes with that creature and still made a movie that probably still wouldn't have been scary or wouldn't have really worked, but still would have been interesting. I found the movie as it is, and this is how we have to review it, right? As it is.
Right.
All right. The plot and everything was bad, but the cinematography was compelling. The editing was interesting. The acting, except for like a couple people, was actually pretty good for what it was, which was a lot of people kind of staring off into space and staring at each other, wandering around the rooms pensively. There's a lot of shots of just long shots of nothing happening, right? Just people wandering around or driving through the snow and stuff like that. It's clearly like stretching for time, almost, more than anything.
Yeah.
But trying to build atmosphere. And part of what keeps it going, I think, man, if there hadn't been a score underneath it, the whole thing, I don't think there's a second that goes by in this movie without this score underneath it. And it's not bad. It's creepy and atmospheric, I could say ethereal. That worked for me. That part worked for me.
I didn't mind it. I mean, it was very typical of the time, and it almost felt like made for TV. I don't know.
A little bit.
I don't know. I don't know how to describe. But you're right. It was all the time, and it was actually. I read that it was reused for like prom night or something.
Well, yeah,
something like that.
Because Paul Zaza, the guy who wrote the score, he's composed like 95. He has 95 credits on there. He composed a lot of stuff for Bob Clark. A lot of his movies, including Black Christmas, Murder by Decree. I was constantly getting little shades of Black Christmas in this movie, I have to say. And it turns out that the editor on this movie also edited almost all of Bob Clark's earlier films. Black Christmas, Murder by Decree, which kind of makes sense. I feel like there are just some call-outs straight away to Black Christmas in some of this.
It's definitely got that vibe, like that mid to late 70s vibe. And that's fine. And like you said, the cinematography is compelling. Like, I mean, it was all right. I think a lot of that just had to do with the fact that the outdoor shots were just pretty. Like, it's a snowy landscape. It's mountainous and foresty, and that's nice. As far as the interiors, it's lots of shots down long hallways and shots in like hotel lobbies. I thought of The Shining 2 just because it's a resort in the mountains at wintertime, so yeah, it reminded me of that. We watched another New Year's movie. I have no idea. I think it was New Year's, where a bunch of people went to a lodge and it ended up being haunted. And do you remember that?
Yeah.
I have no idea what it was. But it reminded me of that. It does kind of have the feel of like those 70s kind of slashers. And I feel like they were going for something unique, and it just didn't pan out. Like you said, the whole idea of the Wendigo, that guy, they could have cut all those scenes and it would have made absolutely no difference, because that really barely plays into the plot at all. I mean, I guess in the finished product, it serves as the motivation for why people are getting killed. Like, they have to... People, like one person gets killed in the whole movie. Or two, maybe, I don't know. Like they're feeding this thing in the cellar. Like, it's like in like an ice cellar or something.
Yeah.
I don't even know. Like, but that's
Literal
why people...
cellar. Cellar made of ice.
Yeah, made of ice. Like ice bricks. So that's why people have to get killed so this thing can eat or whatever. I don't know. I feel like it was a decent idea. And you said the acting isn't bad, and you're right, it's fine. And there are only, like 7 people in the whole movie. And it's okay, and it reminds you very much of 70s films. There's a blonde in the movie named Chrissy, who I wish had been played by Linnea Quigley, because she was the Linnea Quigley role.
Yeah.
There's a lead couple, Marty and Jenny, and they're not bad actors, but they're both assholes. And so, like, I didn't... Marty more so than Jenny, I guess.
Yeah,
Marty's a total dick. let's just do this. Let's get into it.
Well, it's not going to take
There's not
long.
much to tell. I know nothing happens.
I think we can breeze through it, right? Like they just spend a whole hell of a lot of time, probably a good first 15 minutes of the movie, just on their ski-doos or their ski-doos skiing,
snowmobiles,
through the snow in these beautiful surroundings. But it's like, man, that camera lingers on that scene till they have moved from one side of the screen all the way to the other, in every single circumstance. And it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty to look at. Those exterior shots would look great on the big screen.
But there are things about the movie that just, yes, I agree with all of that. It bothered me that Chrissy rode her snowmobile sitting on her knees. Like, who does that? Like, I don't understand.
I don't know. Maybe people do that. Maybe it's like a thing. Like if you're extra sporty, it's part of the challenge or something.
I've never ridden a snowmobile, so what
do you know? Come on. You've barely been to Canada. Come on. I'm clearly the expert in this area.
It starts out with Marty and Jenny at this mountain store, and like it's the same thing. You see it in all of these horror movies. They're in this mountain store with this, shopkeeper who seemed kind of familiar to me, but I looked at his stuff and I didn't recognize anything that he was in. He's just the typical grandfatherly old man, whatever. And Chrissy ends up joining them, and she's like, "It's so boring back at the lodge. Some people are getting ready for the party tonight."
You best stay with the roads. These mountains can be tricky.
We can handle ourselves.
Mountains can fool you. They're dangerous.
No, how can mountains be dangerous? They're so beautiful.
Look, Gramps, we're not going to get lost.
There are worse things out there than getting lost.
It's the typical warning from the gas station guy, like, "Oh, whatever you do, don't go over there." And of course, that's exactly what they do.
Yeah, exactly.
And they find, they're on their snowmobiles, and they find an old road that's like private property, stay out, and they're like, "Oh, let's go check this out."
Except for Jenny, who's like, "I'm not sure if we should go." Well, what's wrong with that? Marty's like, it's just like, well, it's just a sign that says private property, do not enter.
They're like, "Oh, nobody's been up here for years. I'm sure it's fine."
Yeah.
And so they do go up there, and then they find a pristine mountain lodge.
Yes.
The Deer Lodge. And they're like, "What is this?" And Chrissy crashes her snowmobile, and then it's broken, and like it's snowing really heavily. I did appreciate like that they had to climb a snowbank to get in. Like, I assume they filmed it on location. It looked like real snow, and they really like had to struggle to get up there. But then they get up there, and like it's an abandoned ski lodge, but you would have thought that it had been abandoned yesterday.
Yes,
like everything's up and running and clean and
warm.
It's crazy.
It is, like you said, a little bit, and this is probably what you were talking about, a little bit of shades of Bloody New Year, right? That was the one you were thinking of, where they come across that lodge, and part of the mystery is like, why is everything so crisp and clean, even though it hasn't been here? But here, it's only been like 5 years, right? They look at the register, and Marty's like, "Oh, the last person here checked in 5 years ago," and they're like, "Well, why is it still warm? Who turns on the furnace?" So that's a little
Somebody
creepy.
must be here.
Yeah.
Well, but that's the thing. They know that somebody has to be there, but they're not particularly concerned about it. Like, they just make themselves comfortable.
Yeah, and they wander
Everybody
around
goes
forever.
looking around, right?
Yeah, and then there's a creepy scene, and I thought this was, again, something that had promise but didn't end up panning out. Jenny goes up, and she sees a room that has a coat hanger hooked over the door so that the door remains open. Like, it can't be shut, because the coat hanger's in the way, and the door is like, kind of banging. It's like clear that there's like the windows open or something on the other side, and it's pretty creepy. And she goes in, and when she goes into that room, sure enough, the window is open, and she goes to close it, and then there's a quick insert cut of like this crazy eye with this scraggly hair over it, like looking at her from somewhere. We're not sure.
And whispering her name.
Yeah.
That was weird.
And I thought, oh God, this is freaky. And exactly like Black Christmas, right? It was the same eye shot.
Yeah.
that you get at the end of that, even with the person kind of whispering over it and things like that. But then she leaves the room, and then they go downstairs and they have a fire. And my God, this fireside scene.
Oh, it's painful.
Oh.
And like Marty sings a song.
Yeah.
Like a it's not like he sings the whole thing, but it goes on for too long. And plus, it's a familiar tune.
Yeah. Well, it's
familiar.
It was a take on the Frito Bandito song, is what it was supposed to be.
See, and that's the only version of it that I know, and I didn't know if that was a spoof or if this was a spoof. But the way that he sings it.
I steal them and rob them and rape them and screw them, and then I peace out the window.
The girls are just like,
That's so funny.
Ew, he's gross.
Well, and he also he sings it super slow, right? Like it's like the director was like, all right, we've got to burn a lot of film here. Normally the song is at 120 beats per minute. Can you knock it down to maybe, I don't know, 80? And it's so painful.
Yeah. And then out of nowhere,
completely out of nowhere,
Chrissy decides to tell them a long story about how she prostituted herself out to a teacher at 16 for $40. Like, I swear, there's no context for this at all.
No.
Like, she's just like, hey, did you ever want to tell somebody something that you never thought you'd tell? And they're like, no. She's like, okay, well, I will. She's like,
and then when she's
roundabout when I was 16, I really got the urge to sell my body. Like, what?
And then when she's done with this story, she says, I don't know what made me tell you that. And I'm thinking, yeah, me neither. I have no idea.
I know, right? That was not a good story. Like, no. I wouldn't tell it again if I were you.
No.
You might just keep that to yourself.
But what is
I think she was trying to be sexy. Like, I think, throughout the whole thing, it's so dumb. Like, it's this first half hour, like, Jenny and Marty are a couple, apparently, but obviously Chrissy is kind of flirting with Marty, and he's totally into it. And then there's a scene at some point. Okay, this scene comes later because another character pops up, but this scene comes later where Jenny is like, do you want to sleep with her? And he's like, I don't know. I can do whatever I want, right? Like, I gotta live my life. You gotta live your life. Like, that's the deal, right? Why are you such a bitch? Like,
that's almost exactly word for word what he says. I'm like, all right, clearly he wants an open relationship, and they have not talked about this yet.
Oh, God, it's so weird.
Yeah, well, the girls are staring, like you said, they're staring at each other. Jenny's staring at Marty and staring at this girl. There's a lot of staring and these looks being thrown back and forth. And again, up to this point, I'm thinking something interesting is building. It's a little slow about it, and some of it's kind of stupid. But there is some tension here. There's a bit of an atmosphere and a bit of a mystery, and we've seen somebody with a crazy eye whispering one of the characters' names. And the director said that they did shoot this in sequence just out of coincidence. So when the money ran out, it's the stuff in the later part of the movie that, was just thrown in. All of this stuff was pretty much as written, the first half of the movie. So for better or for worse.
That's the thing. Like, I feel like they had a story in mind. Like, they were building something, but then they just abandoned it. Like, for, whether it was financial reasons or they just wanted to wrap it up, I don't know. Like, it felt like they were building something. Like, after their little fireside chat, Marty goes to look for more wine, and he gets attacked by somebody and screams, and so the girls run in, and it ends up being this old lady. And I have to say that if I'm going to say anything positive about this movie, which is hard for me to do, I found this actress compelling.
Yeah.
Like, she was interesting, and I kind of wished that, she has a lot to do, I suppose. I just feel like in a better movie, she could have been really compelling. She was interesting looking. Her acting was interesting.
Mm-hmm. She was apparently a very well-known stage actress in Alberta at the time. Maybe one of the most accomplished of the actors in this whole movie. The rest of them pretty much didn't go on to do much of anything else, except for the Jenny character. She went on to do a few more movies and some TV, but that was about it. She had a look. I thought the Jenny character had a look that was super familiar, but I just think it's because most of the brunettes from the 70s in these movies all had the same hairstyle and the same makeup.
It was,
and, you know.
She looked very 80s nighttime soap. Like
yeah.
Dallas or Knots Landing. Like, that's what she looked like.
Yeah, good point. From the soap guy. Yeah, you can pinpoint that better than I can.
But she was pretty, and like I wanted to like her, but she was just, I don't know, she was weird and annoying too, and Marty was such a dick to her, and she's always like, yeah, you're right. Like, I am a bitch. Sorry. Go ahead and go that other girl.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Well,
like...
It might be this scene, it might be later, but she keeps bringing up, or he keeps needling her about her being crazy, and she's like, don't say that. You know that hurts me. And he's like, why? Are you worried that you're going to turn into your mother? There's this implication throughout that her mother is crazy. And so she's worried that she's going to be crazy like her mother. And we've seen that before in other films too, right?
True, but it's so frustrating because it really amounts to nothing. Like, it could have been something interesting, and it feels in the movie like they're exploring that. Like, is she really hearing voices whispering her name? Is she somehow connected to this place? Because it seems like the old lady, who really is, she doesn't explain anything. She's just totally evasive. Like, they ask her questions and she just kind of skirts around it.
Yeah.
And they're just like, okay, well, I guess you're here, so whatever. It seems like immediately she feels some connection to Jenny, or she knows something about Jenny. And it seems like in concept there was something that made Jenny special, and like maybe she was drawn to this place, or they knew she was coming, or something, but it never really plays out. Like, if you want to try to kind of piece things together in your mind, you can maybe think
of a better movie.
Well, right, like, but there's something about her. She's a special kind of person, and this lady recognizes it.
Well, she flat out says it.
But it doesn't play it.
Well, Chrissy gets up and goes to the bathroom. Something happens, and then later Jenny goes looking for Chrissy, and she runs into the old lady. There's a lot of this people wander around pretty much all night long, with their candles in the hallway.
You know you're an okay one. You're tough inside.
What do you mean?
You gotta be tough to handle this job. You gotta be ready every minute, and I'm getting too old for it.
For what?
And the implication is maybe she takes care of the hotel, but it's said in such a sinister way that there's more to it than that, or that's not even what she actually does. So instantly there's this, this is total foreshadowing, right?
Right.
That something's going to happen, like whatever she does, she's looking for a replacement.
Right. But that part of the movie seems to have been excised, so... And not entirely like it's there, but it's so... just hanging on by a thread, like it's inconsequential.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes it's also very much like burnt offerings, right?
Yes.
We need a new person to take care of this place, or to feed. In that case, to feed the house, but in this case, to feed the ice monster. I don't know.
The dude in a coat
with a little bit of makeup on that kind of makes him look a little bit gross, but there's no indication. Like, if he's supposed to be a Wendigo, first of all, that also bothered me, because we've done movies that dealt with Wendigos before, and I've never heard them described as a ghost that lives on human flesh. I don't know. I didn't do any research, so I don't know what the Wendigo is supposed to be, but it's a Native American myth, or I guess in this case, Native Canadian.
I think it's supposed to be a ghost that wakes up when somebody consumes human flesh. So, yeah. When cannibalism happens, it awakens this ghost, and it's basically, I guess, like, everybody's punishment for the fact that this happened. So I'm playing a game called Until Dawn on the PS4 right now that deals with this directly, and it's actually pretty fun. Way more fun than this movie.
Was it Bone Tomahawk? Was that the...
Bone Tomahawk was one of them because it dealt with a whole tribe. But then the one that was really good, I loved, was Ravenous.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. That's what I'm thinking of, yeah. And there's talk of Wendigo in Pet Cemetery, too. I don't even remember if it was in the movie. I just remember it from the book. But whatever. The old lady says that she's lived there all her life, and they're like, well, it must be tough being all alone. And she's like, no one's ever alone in the mountains. And they ask her what she means, and she's like, well, my boy's here in the mountains, and he keeps me company. Okay, meanwhile, the whole time that she's telling this story, she's eating a sandwich. Where did she get lettuce?
I know!
Her sandwich?
That was bothering me so much. But also, the sandwich looked so good, I turned to my wife, who was not watching this with me, and I was like, I could really go for a BLT right now. Is there any way we could scrounge up enough lettuce for a BLT?
These were the things I was thinking about during this movie. That tells you how entertaining it was. Like, wait a minute. They're in this abandoned resort in the middle of the Canadian wilderness, but she has fresh, crispy lettuce for her sandwich.
And, she could have made them a sandwich, too. I mean, come on. They're standing right there staring at her, watching her eat this sandwich. Oh, what a shame.
God.
So anyway, so she's been creeping around, and Chrissy goes off to take a bath. And I thought for sure, okay, well, we get our topless moments and things like that. And this is where they creatively shot around actual nudity, which was surprising for a movie like this.
It's also surprising that this movie is rated R.
Yeah, why?
There's no nudity. There's very little graphic violence. I mean, there's definitely suggested violence, but it's not graphic at all. I mean, I have no idea why it's rated R. It's weird.
It was a different time, Craig. It was a different time.
I guess.
And so she goes into her tub, and I thought this sequence was quite good. We've heard about her son, and so now there's this other character, the legs and whatnot, walking through the hallway, creeping towards her as she's getting into her bath and sitting in her bath. And, of course, because it's a horror movie, when you take a bath, you have to light like 5 candles and have them sitting somewhere in the bathroom. So, he blows his candle out, and he opens the door behind her, and that blows the candle flames back and forth a little bit. Little breeze comes into the room, but she barely notices it. And then he kind of closes the door, and she turns around and doesn't see him there. And then suddenly he's standing over her, and he grabs her and takes her out. And I thought that was a bit of a shocking thing. I mean, projected from a mile away. But nonetheless, okay, we got our first, I thought, kill, because he pushes her down under the water.
I thought so, too.
And then Jenny gets up and wanders in there and doesn't see Chrissy and runs into the old woman. And then Marty gets up looking for Chrissy, and she's not there. And then they seem fairly unconcerned for most of the rest of the film that Chrissy is just up and vanished.
They kind of act like they care for a second. Like, they get up the next morning. Was the old lady smoking weed through the whole movie?
I thought so.
It looked like it.
Yeah, I thought so.
It probably was just supposed to be hand-rolled cigarettes, but it definitely, I don't know. It looked like a doob to me. And while her son, presumably, I guess, is killing Chrissy, or so we think, just like you, I thought that he drowned her, but we see just minutes later him carrying her down to the ice basement
lair, the ice house,
and he slits her throat. That's probably the most graphic part, is when he slits her throat and she bleeds, and he throws her into this whatever it is. It just looks like a guy that they.
Yes,
I mean,
that's the problem.
When the disfigurement that he has could just be frostbite. It doesn't look like much of anything. And that's what I thought when you said this scene was kind of compelling. I guess because it's one of the only action scenes that we get, but I'm like, if you have a castle freak, just like use the castle freak. You don't need some rando guy who we don't know and who looks totally normal. Just like, good looking mountain man kind of guy.
Yeah.
Just show up and kind of drown this girl and then throw her in her room. And then he shows up later to chase Jenny around for a while, but that's it. Like, there's no characterization.
Yeah. They're lackeys for this thing, I guess, or they're supposed to be protectors. And I think that's where the title Ghostkeeper comes from. If this guy in a coat in the basement is the ghost, then, this mother is the ghost keeper. And if there's some mythology behind it, we don't really get it. But the director in the interview said that was when they ran out of the money. Like, they ran out of the money, and the producer said, you have 1 day with your monster. You have a monster movie, and you've got 1 day to shoot with the monster. And so all they did was just put him in that room and shoot a whole bunch of different angles on him is all they had, all they could do. And then at that point, like I said, he had to redo the entire ending, which there was intended to be a long chase scene, face to face with the monster. All of this stuff was part of the ending. The monster was supposed to be a monster movie, and now there's not hardly any monster in it at all. And what monster there is, like you said, is super baffling.
Yeah, well, and I almost feel like it could have been interesting because the monster could have been sympathetic. Like, I wanted to know more about him. I wanted to, because he doesn't even look monstrous. Like, he looks scared and sad.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So I wanted to know, what is his story?
Yeah.
And if as the movie projects from the very beginning that Jenny is going to be his new caretaker, it's almost like a Beauty and the Beast kind of situation. Like, I thought it was going to be kind of a sympathetic deal, but it's just thrown away.
Yeah, just abandoned, really, and that's a shame. Yeah, I would have also liked to have known if the monster, when he was 16, felt the need to sell his body or something like that. Would have been nice to chat with the monster a little bit more.
Not even felt the need, she just felt like
it.
Once, when I was 16, I had this uncontrollable urge to want to do it for money. Like being a hooker.
Okay. And then, so Jenny and Marty end up together, and she apologizes to him for the fight that they had,
God.
Where he was such a dick. God, what did he say? I wrote it down. He said to her, "You live your life the way you want. Just remember who pays the bills." Dude,
yeah,
you are such a dick.
And she just laps it up. She's like, "Oh, okay."
And then she apologizes to him later and's like, "Oh, sorry, I get that way." And then she's like, "Maybe I'm going through some kind of stage or something. I'm afraid of being crazy. I don't want to be like my mother." Which, again, is a moot point because we get nothing about the backstory. And it's like she's super concerned about this, but we know nothing about it.
They tell us outright way too many times. Like, she should not be the one saying this out loud. It should be delivered to us in another way. And like you said, it means nothing ultimately. But once again, as we've said about a lot of things in this movie, they're setting up something kind of compelling. I mean, their relationship of this guy who's kind of overbearing, and she just kind of takes it. She's weak and whatever. However, this mother said that she's actually strong. She can tell that she's strong inside. There's an interesting bit of tension or whatever going on here, but it's really not skillfully done. And I think that the Marty's acting has a lot to do with that too. He does come across as a dick. He's written as a dick, but some of it's just a little over the top. Just something about his performance doesn't ring true to me. And so every time he was smirking and smiling and smugging and all over the place, I'm like, this isn't a real guy. This is a guy acting like a dick,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's super cocksure. Like, he's just, I don't know. It didn't bother me as far as the acting goes. He just, and to be fair, because I say this about hot girls all the time. He's a good-looking guy and charming in some ways, I guess, but just a jerk. But if you were to watch this movie, which I do not recommend, but if you were, you would see him and you would say, I've known guys like that. Like,
yeah, true.
It may be fun to be around sometimes, but if you actually get to know him, really just a dick. Like, you don't want to be his friend. Kind of like you.
Yeah, that's right. The more time you spend with them.
I'm just kidding. I really like you.
Yeah. Everything but my laugh, right?
No, you're one of my best friends.
Oh. So tell me more about me, Craig. Let's wrap this up.
No, we may as well. Oh, God, I don't know. So Jenny walks around and she hears the old woman talking to somebody. It's her son, but Jenny doesn't know that. But the old lady's like, you done good. It'll be fine. He needed us. I'm not mad at you or whatever. Okay, and so then it's morning, and Marty goes out, and I thought, oh, the snowmobile that was already broken still won't start. Surprise, surprise. But apparently, one of the snowmobiles is gone, and Chrissy is gone, and the remaining snowmobile has been sabotaged. Like, one cord has been pulled out of it. And that was so funny to me, like, he opens up, like, the hood or whatever of this snowmobile, and he sees that one cord has been disconnected, and I wanted to be like, dude, just plug it back in.
Can you at least try that?
No, he just rips it out and throws it out into the snow. Like, seriously, one side of this cord has been pulled out from somewhere. Look around, see where it goes, plug it back in. Oh, God. And so he goes in and he confronts the old woman. He's like, what the hell's going on here? Chrissy and her mobile are gone and somebody's fooled with my machine. And she plays dumb. And he goes...
And she's cutting meat, too, which I thought, that's interesting. You know, it looks like this huge rack of ribs and whatnot.
Yeah.
There's this part of me.
I don't know what it
was. Like, was it Chrissy, you know?
Well, and
it
could have been, I suppose. Because we did see... just in shadow silhouette, presumably the son chopping up something with an axe, which Marty later finds the bloody axe, but then he also blood drips on his hand, and he looks up, and it's a deer that's been slaughtered, which, you know, that's reasonable, whatever, I don't know. My impression was that they fed the girl to the castle freak, so... Yeah. Whatever. I don't know. It's all just so hodgepodge. But the old lady, though she's a little bit short with Marty sometimes, she's always super nice to Jenny. And, like, anytime she's around Jenny, she smiles. And she gives Jenny some tea.
You know what I think? You don't even work for this place. You've made it yours somehow, but you don't work here.
You think what you want. What's done's done. You can't change it.
Last night I heard you talking to somebody else. We never see anybody else around. Where's Chrissy? Where's Chrissy?
Where's Chrissy? And then she just walks out and goes and sits in the lobby, which looks very much like The Shining. Like, it's just these huge windows. Excuse me, I should clarify that. It's not as big and luxurious, but in style, it kind of looks like it, because there's just like a line of chairs sitting in front of these windows overlooking the winter landscape. And she sits in front of it, and her vision starts going wobbly. I assume the old lady drugged her with the tea?
With the tea,
Yeah. And then the old lady and the son enter behind her, and she briefly sees them, but then she passes out, and
that
we
was
see
a good,
Marty in the shed.
Great shots.
That
right
wasn't
here,
bad.
Too. Yeah, it was really nice. Marty's in the shed. He's looking for things, and that's when he encounters the deer. And then Jenny wakes up in a random room, and there's a book in front of her, conveniently placed.
Indian Legends of Canada.
As though this were a video game. There is a book in front of her that she just opens up and, to the bookmarked page and says something about legends tell of a flesh-eating giant that's usually kept by a female. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, kept by a female? Puts it all together in her head.
And there are newspaper clippings of, missing explorer parties in the mountains or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, in 30 seconds, she kind of sort of puts it together as best you can from this non-story.
And I'm thinking, okay, now she's got to break out of this room or whatever. But no, the next shot just shows her wandering around the hallways and presumably the basement where they just left her. And she, I guess, breaks the lock with her hands, or it's kind
I didn't get that. Like,
unlocked?
there was a lock on it, but she just fiddles with it for a second and it opens. Like, maybe the key is in the lock. I don't know, because it takes her all of 2 seconds. It's a padlock on a door, and she literally just fingers it for a second, and it's open.
Just a second, like, this is this Wendigo or whatever, some, beast of legend, and they've got like a cheap-ass padlock on this door in the basement. She opens the door, looks in. We see the same shot of him staring back at her, and she's like, oh, shit. And she just closes the door again. And then sound of a chainsaw comes from behind. She starts getting chased by the son with the chainsaw down the hallway. I'm like, cool, chainsaw chasing scene. This is interesting. And he chases her into the house and up the stairs. And suddenly, somewhere in the midst of this chase, he doesn't have the chainsaw anymore.
It dies. When he's on the stairway, it dies, so he abandons it.
Oh, what a shame, huh?
I know. Well, and so he chases her around for a while, whatever, and then she goes out, like, onto a fire escape, and when he comes out, she pushes him, and she's only on the second story, so I was thinking, big deal. She pushes him down, and he's going to land in the snow, big deal. But lucky for her, there's a iron fence with spikes, and he lands on that. This is the part that drives me crazy. Okay, so Marty sees this happen, and reunites with her, and she's like trying to explain to him what's going on, but apparently he just thinks she's crazy, and then he loses his goddamn mind. Like, out of nowhere, all of a sudden he is just batshit crazy, and like painting his face with engine grease, and he does this whole monologue that I can only imagine was improvised, because it doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
And it's long, and it's just to establish that he has lost it. And he's got a hold of her, like they're face to face, but he has a hold of her by the back of her hair. And another reason that I think that this was improvised is she has no idea how to react to him.
She has nothing to do.
No. So she just kind of stands there in shocked horror for a good 2 minutes, and he's violent, like he's thrashing her head up and down and around. And this poor actress, I'm like, good Lord. Like,
give her something like to do.
I know.
Yeah, this was so painful. This was so painful to watch this scene.
And it just ends up with him saying, I gotta go get help. And she's like, no, don't. And then he just trots off into the wilderness,
and she chases
without
after
his
him.
gloves, without his hat. She chases after him for a little while, but then he just pushes her down like 3 times in the snow and just keeps walking off. Like, that's it. And the monologue is about how like his dad is so perfect and he wanted to impress his dad. It doesn't make any sense, and it's so stupid, and it doesn't make any sense that he just snaps out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
And then out of nowhere, suddenly the old man from the store is walking through the snow, and he looks at the sign and he looks at the tracks and just, oh boy,
shakes his head like, oh, those
crazy
kids.
Goes up to the lodge. And as he's approaching the lodge, we see the woman who's totally mugging, opens the door, looks at him, gets a big evil grin on her face and closes it. And I'm thinking, oh, this is our Scatman Carruthers scene, right? He's going to go in.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. He goes into the lodge. It's a good 5 or 8 minutes of this, and as soon as he gets in there, he goes into one room, and she's around the corner with a knife and just stabs him in the chest. And then that's it. That's it for this guy.
Yeah. Well, it's that scene from The Shining, too, with Dick Halloran. Like, Dick Halloran knows something is going on, and he's going to go up and be the hero. And then as soon as he steps in the door, Jack Nicholson axes him in the chest, and then that's it.
Yeah, I said Scatman Carruthers. I guess maybe I have the wrong name.
I don't know. That sounded familiar to me, too, so I was just going with it. Ugh, God, it's so silly. But Jenny goes back to the lodge because she remembers she had seen earlier, she had like stumbled into a cleaning closet or something, and there was a shotgun in there, and she remembers that it's there. So she goes in, she gets the gun, she ends up meeting the old lady in the hall, and the old lady does this whole, again, it's very much like The Shining when Jack is, trying to, like, he's got the, whatever it is, the axe or whatever it is behind his back. This woman has the knife behind her back, this foot-long knife that she's carrying around. And she's like, you wouldn't kill me. That's something a crazy person would do. You don't want to be crazy like your mom. And Jenny's like, how do you know that? And she's like, I know a lot of things. You know who I am. I'm your mother. Come to mother. And it could have been compelling if there was anything to back it up.
Yeah.
But why does this crazy old lady know that Jenny has a crazy mom? Why does she know that she would be moved by any of this? It doesn't make any sense.
Actually, to be fair, she does overhear her talking about this.
Okay.
In the hallway. She's on the other side of the door, like smiling and listening while Jenny is explaining to Marty about how she doesn't want to be like her mom. So yeah. But you're right. I mean, it's just, this all kind of comes on quick and fast and hard at the end. And Jenny shoots her. And then Jenny spends a really, really long time going back into that main room in the lodge, picking up the same tea she had before. So I don't know if she's going to be out again. She does go downstairs to the Wendigo.
To the ice cellar. Yeah.
Opens the door to pop in on our friend and basically assure him, don't worry, I'll look after you. Closed door.
Yeah, it's all right. Jenny will look after you now. What? Meanwhile, okay, well, and then she goes out and finds Marty frozen to death against a tree, looking like he's doing a Jack Torrance impersonation.
Yep.
Frozen against a tree.
God.
And however, the actor is clearly breathing.
Yes.
Hold your breath for 1 second, dude. And she talks to it because seriously, the camera is on him for a second, and he is clearly breathing. Anyway, and she says to him, you should have listened to Jenny. You should have been nicer to Jenny. I have to go now, but don't worry, Marty. I'll be back for you. And then she walks back into the lodge and she sits. And frankly, I'm thinking, this sucked, but she gets to live in this huge, heated, well-stocked, apparently, lodge in the mountains. Cool, whatever.
Yeah.
And then she hears whispering, and it sounds like the old woman, and it's saying, it's over, isn't it? You done fine. You'll see, Jenny. It'll be like it always was. You'll see. Fades of black, the end. What
the hell?
What? I have no idea what's happening.
I wish I could. I wish I could tell you. I mean, it is what it is, right? We've got to.
I guess
we've got to review it as it is. But the fact of the matter is, even the director was just making shit up after a while and doing his best, saying, "Look, if the movie can't be what we intended it to be, which was this monster movie, at least we can make it something super creepy and atmospheric, and hope that works." And so, like you said, there's a little bit of everything in here. There's a little bit of Burnt Offerings with the ending. There's a lot of The Shining in here. Shades of Black Christmas and stuff. And yeah, that is what it is. The movie was written around this lodge. It's kind of a shame because it seems like The director's friend, apparently, his parents or whatever owned this lodge, and it also was closed for the winter, so they were able to shoot there. And he said also when we were outside, every time snow fell, that was real. All the snow outdoor scenes, we were super lucky that everything looked great when we went outside to film.
I would totally go to that lodge. It was
I would
gorgeous.
too, and I kind of wish I'd seen more of it. I mean, it would have been kind of nice. Most of it's just rooms and hallways and that one, lobby area and the dead kitchen.
It was very, I say it's gorgeous. It's not luxurious. It's very rustic, but it looks very isolated in the Canadian mountains. It's beautiful. I would totally go there.
So that's what it is. And I think, all things said and done, I think it was atmospheric until it, your other brain kicks in and is like, yeah, but where is this going and why doesn't any of this make sense? I think it was well edited, and God, more power to them to be able to pull something together that is semi-coherent and at least doesn't feel like a completely different movie halfway through, that they did it. I know I'm trying hard, aren't I? The musician.
I know, that's so funny when what you have, the good things you have to say about it was, I mean, they made a movie.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get to is that, I just wanted to remind everyone there were talented people at the helm behind this trying to salvage this. And this is sometimes what just has to happen in the industry, Like I said, the editor of this movie, did Porky's 2 after this, did Porky's before it, and then went on to do A Christmas Story the same year that this movie came out.
Oh.
Yeah, then he edited Rhinestone, but, at least we know what that movie is.
I liked Rhinestone.
Popcorn? I know you did.
We've done Popcorn.
I
liked
Popcorn. He edited that. He's been successful, working guy. And then, again, the composer that we were talking about earlier, right after this, went to do curtains.
Now, see, and that's what I would say. Technically, it is not bad. Technically, it's not bad. It's fine. It's serviceable. We've definitely seen worse.
Yeah.
Even story-wise, we've seen worse. It's just not... It fell apart. It just fell apart. And it's too bad. Maybe it could have been something. I don't know. I don't think it was ever going to be a masterpiece, but there were some interesting ideas there. It just didn't work, and I didn't like it, and I wouldn't recommend it.
No.
And I much rather would have watched a bunch of hot, shirtless gay guys running around getting killed. That would have been way more up my alley, but whatever. That's what I get when I let you pick the movies. There weren't even any boobs.
No,
geez,
I was super disappointed. I saw the blonde. I was like, all right, at least we're seeing the blonde girl's boobs. Nope. Linnea, where are you when we need you?
Exactly. She would have been perfect in this role, and she would have been much more compelling. That whole hooker story would have been much more compelling if Linnea Quigley had been telling it.
Yeah.
And they only mentioned New Year's one time.
Twice. Yes. I counted. There were two times.
So good pick for our New Year's movie, Todd.
Yeah, but look at here we are. We've put almost an hour into this, and we had to fill it out a little bit with some summer vacation stories, but
yeah.
Did you think we would get to this point?
No, but as always, I did. When we watch these types of movies, especially when you pick them, which is usually, when I'm watching them, I'm like, you asshole, I hate you. But then when we talk about it, it's... I enjoy talking to you.
I just wish it had been about shirtless guys.
It was fun to talk about. We had some good laughs. So
yeah, we did.
I hope that our listeners enjoy that and don't watch this movie.
Oh, God, at least it wasn't another movie about some pandemic going on or,
Oh, thank God.
Well, thank you all for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please share it with a friend. Happy New Year to everybody. We're looking forward to bringing you more and more episodes as we go through this year, 2021. We wish you and everybody else a much better 2021 than your 2020 was.
It's got to be better than 2020, and I am optimistic.
Me too. Use your favorite podcast software or platform to subscribe to our episodes. Also get to our YouTube channel. We're closely approaching 100 subscribers there. Woohoo! Until next time, I'm Todd.
And I'm Craig.
With Two Guys and a Chainsaw.